my definition of success is growth. So every so often that changes for me. If I was to think back a year from now, this would have been what I would define as success. Right now, where I stand, my next step is where success lies. So I'm always having my little success milestones. To me, success is a never ending journey.
True.
Because you're never, at least I'm never gonna just sit still and think, okay, I'm done. I'm always gonna want to work on something bigger, something better,
Yeah.
and push myself beyond the boundaries.
Hey everyone, welcome back to your new favorite podcast where every voice matters, the voice to be heard. This is a podcast for real stories, raw conversations, and inspiring journey of success. For today's guest, we're going to meet the human behind AI voice. She is the CEO and founder of Elevate, one of the first world emotional intelligence app. Please help me welcome Sharifa Sagaaf.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharifa, for being here.
Thank
It's been a long journey to be here as well.
you.
Okay, Sharifa, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what is Elevate all about?
So I've got about 15 years of experience working in organizations within HR, and that's where I developed a specialty within L&D and even coaching. And I further went to take on my certifications within coaching. And pretty much along that time, I started to think that there was some sort of gap in the market. I realized that there was almost a gap between awareness, because if you look at the world right now, there's so much with AI. It's so easy to get information. People have therapists, people, have mentors. You're just getting a bunch of load of information. A lot of times people don't know what to do with that information. So there's a fine gap between, the awareness and actioning something. And I feel like that sweet spot is clarity. So that's the reason that I built Elevate. It was to almost challenge AI to be able to be more human and more emotionally intelligent, but also create and design an AI that would ask questions as opposed to give you solutions. The reason it's actually clone is because it's an extension of me. It's an extension. When I say it's an extension of me, it's an extension of my knowledge, my skills, and my experience. So I've personally, designed and trained the AI to be able to challenge people and empower them by asking them questions instead of giving them the information and telling them what to do. I feel like a lot of times what we lack is, we have the information within us, but we just need the right person to ask us the right questions for us to think, oh, this is what I need to do. When I say information is out there, it's very generalized. You're not getting the right information for you. I'll give you an example. Whether you're having trouble in a relationship, whether you're facing a challenge within the organization, whether it's with your manager, or even struggling to grow your business, the solutions and the challenges that you face is different even person to person. We might have the same issue, but I promise you, at the root of it, it's very different.
Yeah, very subjective.
Exactly. So Elevate comes in and asks you questions to be able to understand the root of where the issues lie, but also be able to ask you the right question for you to be able to come up with the right answer that suits you. It's not something that you're going to be uncomfortable doing, but it's an answer that you think is right for you. So, in the sense, empowering people.
Can you give us an example of the questions that you have?
Yeah. So let's say, for example, if it all depends how you start the conversation. So, for example, if I ask or if I say that I'm really tired today, Coach Sherry, which is the main character
Yeah.
of Elevator, the coach in Elevates, the AI coach, what she will do is she won't give you generalized solutions. Instead, she's going to ask you what you mean when you say tired. Are you physically tired? Are you mentally tired? What led to that situation? It's not just about whys, but it's designed to be able
To understand you.
to understand you, help you understand yourself, because sometimes we don't even understand ourselves or why we're feeling a certain emotion, but then end up with a plan. So most of the time, if need be that I need to perform an action, that turns to a goal at the end of the coaching. So you're leaving with an action plan as opposed to a conversation that has no step forward.
Okay. When you were trying to build your app,
Yeah.
what made you decide to clone yourself as the AI coach?
That's a really good question. So initially, I wasn't trying to clone myself.
Uh-huh.
What happened was I was trying to create a coach out of AI. And that was very challenging because I was trying to create the first emotionally intelligent coach.
I'm trying to understand, like when you say you build
Yeah.
the app itself,
Yes.
like, are you involved in the back end or?
Yes. So, my husband is actually a lead software engineer, and he helped me with pretty much all of the, creating and developing of the actual app. However, we work very closely together because I'm on one hand a coach, and he's on one hand a tech expert. So we
That
had
combination.
exactly. So we had to work well together because a lot of it, and almost he had to teach me to do a lot of it. So I had to learn how to pretty much train and design the AI to be able to keep running tests and keep, improving the personality. Because think of it this way. When you're training a human, we're
Yeah.
born and we're raised with certain instincts. We know that if we say something or if someone is upset, we automatically know what to do in a way. Maybe they might differ, but we understand there's a context in there. We're more vulnerable. We have compassion naturally, and we somehow have the ability to understand or, know how to act when certain emotions come up. That's something I had to teach a robot,
Wow.
if you think about it that way, or an AI.
Yeah,
So that was pretty challenging.
that's very interesting.
Exactly.
Honestly. So basically, when people say that it's a human emotional intelligence, we perceive it as a human trait.
Yes.
So how do you translate that into AI through your app?
Yeah. So it's very interesting because we're saying that it's unhuman, and it is,
Mm-hmm.
but yet it has, or it's emotionally intelligent. How it's emotionally intelligent is in its response. So it understands to pick up certain cues or patterns that allow it to understand certain emotions that a person is feeling. So, for example, if you are overwhelmed, it can understand that it shouldn't overwhelm you, for example, with information. It could ask you that if you're feeling foggy, it would ask you if you would like to stop, take a pause, and then do a breathing activity together. So I had to train it to understand certain emotion cues. We're saying that again, how do you make an AI emotional?
Yeah.
It's by understanding certain patterns and cues. That's how you do it. Again, it'll never be human, but it can try to understand what a person needs when they're facing the
Through data
so
or through
cues,
language.
through language, through, for example, pacing. When you're speaking, for example, in a low tone, and then I'm speaking this is a particular example to the voice.
Yeah.
So if you're pacing and you're speaking in a low volume, slower, your volume is down, then it picks up that your mood is off, for example. It'll ask you as well how you're feeling. So that also adapts to the situation. You're speaking pretty quickly and you're kind of venting. It understands
That's
that
true.
if it's a situation where you say, I'm frustrated with this, and then I can't believe this happened, and you go on to talk, it understands that I need to pause and I need to allow this person to vent a little bit more, and then focus on actually helping them. Because as much as I say that it asks you questions to be able to help you, it needs to do that understanding that you're only human. And that's just one of the examples.
When it comes to confidentiality of the
Yeah.
of the app,
Yes.
so where are you in that?
So we've got a very secure server, and that's basically where all the information goes in. So it's completely secure and completely separate. It runs on its own, so it's not connected to any big corporation. We don't sell any of the data. It's used only by keywords triggered to a specific dashboard that basically we use these keywords, formed through AI to be able to basically enhance the the features of the app pretty much. So, for example, if a lot of people are focusing on fitness goals, then we might consider in the future coming up with a feature that would support that and allow the person to almost make the most of the app in a way. So it's important to be able to understand our users and what kind of, for example, goals do they, have, what kind of challenges they're facing. This is something that we're very transparent with as well, because as soon as you log into the app, you'll be able to actually see this information. You'll be able to see the trends in terms of challenges. You'll be able to see, like, in terms of top challenges, but you'll also be able to see, for example, what are the top trending goals as well. A month back, it was actually fitness and body image, whereas this month you'll see it's turned into skill development.
So it varies from monthly basis.
It depends. It depends on what people are. It collects general information and then it basically creates, or updates that specific detail.
Mhm. I'm curious about you as a person. Like, when did you discover that you like this kind of path?
Yeah.
As like, I mean, you can teach other people through one-on-one session,
Yeah.
but what made you decide to go in this area as an AI
Mm.
coach?
So I've always done coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and that's always been something that I enjoyed the most. Why?
Coaching in what sense? Like for
Coaching.
like a guidance counselor?
Not really. So when I say coaching, I mean coaching in the form of professional coaching and life coaching as well. Those are the two areas that I've touched on. And those areas you can, within that is performance coaching, is career coaching. It's pretty much a life coaching in all of its sense. So that's something that I've always enjoyed to do.
When you
Whether
say life coaching, what does that mean?
it could mean, for example, a person who lacks confidence in a certain area. For example, someone who's
Personal growth.
yes, personal growth. It could be, I'm afraid of public speaking. It could be even a situation of managing emotions that comes from NLP. So, for example, I've had people that were really emotional because of something that have happened. So I've had to stop my coaching session, have an NLP technique that I could practice with them until they were able to, calm down and manage their emotions before I get to move forward with the coaching. And that's exactly something that I've interpreted within the app itself. So everything that I've learned, everything that I've experienced, I've kind of put into it and I trained Sherry to be able to do that. So it's funny because, you mentioned earlier that it was a clone of me, and I was mentioning how I didn't plan that.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason behind that was because every time, I would test it out, I would share it with a couple of people, whether it be my ex-colleagues, my friends, and my family. And a lot of them who I've coached would tell me, "Oh, Sharifa, it sounds just like you." Well, I know because they've been coached by me, so they know. And I mean, it makes sense because I've taught it everything I know. So, with that being said, it already was an extension of me. So that's where I got the suggestion and said, "Okay, Sharifa, why don't you just call it Sherry and just make it you?" And I thought about it and I said, "You know what? Yeah, sure, let's go with it." So that's when we created this character to bring her to life as a human.
That's very smart.
Yeah. And at the moment, her voice is actually my clone. So if you actually hear my voice, it sounds exactly as Sherry. So you'd be talking to me.
Like it's a lot. It's very interesting because I don't know how to make this, like, to input all of this thing into as what you're doing right now. But
Yeah.
how many years you've been doing this
So in terms of coaching or in
in
terms
terms
of
of
the business?
building the app?
So in terms of building the app, it's actually been a year at the moment. A little, it's already worry. Yeah, it's only over a year. However, I actually only publicly launched it, I would say around almost January on beta. And at the moment, it's been almost a week that I've actually updated it to something that I'm pretty comfortable with. And this is actually, I would say, the real launch with all the full features that we're going to launch with. We're currently working actually behind the scenes. At the moment, as we speak, it's on a web app, but it's also responsive, which means that you can use it on your phone. So behind the scenes, what we're doing is we're actually preparing to actually launch the downloadable, mobile app basically.
It's a trial.
It was a trial, and I feel like now we're at a happy place where it's good to go. Like every app, we're always going to update it. There's always going to be improvements. There's always going to be new features and new things. And there's some really exciting things in the works. But I think this is a great foundation.
And what are the struggles that you're facing when building an app?
I think when building
Especially
app,
for those people who wants to do the same thing.
I think a lot of people, when I think about, people that I've interacted with, a lot of people have a lot of ideas, and they almost know how they want to do it, but they're too afraid to take the step and go ahead with it. They doubt themselves. There's a lot of, thinking, oh, well, I can't do this or I can't do that. I think the important step is to start. A lot of people also focus on perfectionism. I want it to be perfect before it goes out.
Yeah.
God knows my app was not perfect before it went out, but I had to, which is why I put it on beta, because it's such a unique app where I cannot for the life of me test it. I've been testing it for a year before it went live on beta. And there is not enough scenarios that I personally can try that will actually give me the feedback to improve it by myself. So I had people, different feedback that we received in the beginning from someone using Android versus an iPhone versus, the experience through here. And there was so many different situations.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was so important,
To consider.
Exactly. So it's always important to start. If you're nervous about starting, start it on beta, but you need to get feedback. You need to get it out there. When I first started, and I continue to do this, the people that continue to give me feedback, I really appreciate it. And I tend to actually give them feedback about, the app and what we've taken on board, and I get back to them. I find that very important because it's almost like someone's helping you build something. It's almost like they're a part of my app. They're part of the family in a way. So for me, it's very personal. It's a great thing, and I take that forward with me. I don't believe nothing is perfect, but getting it out there is as close to perfect as it'll ever be if I continue growing it. I think if you're stagnant and you're stuck, that's where you're failing, because there's always going to be competition. There's always going to be someone who's going to come up with something.
Especially in Dubai.
Exactly.
There's a lot of app coming up every, like, once you stop doing your app,
Yes.
you'll be like, there's a lot of competitors in that.
Exactly. And you know what's funny is early on when I was researching, I found apps that were, claiming
Same
to
like.
be coach,
Mhm.
AI coach, AI coach. But when
By the way, have you
actually
seen any competitors like like same as what you're just?
So basically, when I looked into it, they were not coaching in the form of actually the structural professional coaching. What they did is use the title of coaching. However, it was more of either a companion, someone that either gave advice. So for me personally, this is when I discovered that, okay, there may be a gap here because I haven't seen the coaching that we do professionally, structurally done, something that is emotionally intelligent, has a point of understanding, when people are overwhelmed or people are upset, how to kind of help them manage their emotions. And the combination of everything, and how I've kind of trial run it allowed me to add more. So it's not just a typing, chat when you use the chat. There's also components that pop up which make it more interactive. So when you have a breathing exercise, you're not actually going to be reading it. So there's going to be something interactive that pops up and tells you, take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out, and so on. So it's very interactive in the sense. There's moments where it might actually give you different answers and ask you which one aligns with you. Because in those moments, it realizes that if someone doesn't know the answer, I'm not going to keep pushing the same answer. I'm actually going to help them out and say, okay, well, what about these? Which one do you kind of relate with?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We have already
Yeah.
seen the demo of your app.
Yes.
So what's the difference of your app to like ChatGPT?
Great. That's a great question. Because funny enough, a lot of people, when I say AI, they assume it's very similar to ChatGPT. And I think a lot of organizations, when they adapt AI, it is very similar. And by the way, I love ChatGPT because it's a great, source of information, getting information. Not always accurate, but that goes without saying. I mean, it's populated from the internet. However, I think ChatGPT serves its own purpose, which is sharing information, which is, great. It's very generic information that you get to, pick up from and sometimes learn from as well. But what my app does differently is it's more focused on wellness. And the reason that I say wellness is because here we're not actually giving you answers. When you say to ChatGPT, I'm tired, it will automatically give you all the possibilities as to why you're tired, what you need to do next.
Mm-hmm.
What Sherry does is she asks you, what you're feeling is, for example, are you tired mentally or tired physically? What makes you feel this way? What happened? Did something lead to you feeling this way? It tries to understand and diagnose what's going on with you. And then you're coming up with the answers.
Yeah. So you're the one answering your own problem.
Exactly, which is where the empowerment comes in.
And it's like self-diagnosing.
Almost, but I wouldn't use the word diagnosing. I would say almost like self-reflection,
Mm-hmm.
and it develops a sense of self-trust. And I think of it this way. I don't know if you've had experience where you've had a manager that whenever you go to them, they ask whether it's these 3 questions repeatedly every time you give them or submit a project. They ask you, okay, 1, 2, 3, the same questions every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they ask you those questions, you develop a habit to ask yourself those questions because you're being asked that question. So you now have developed a habit where I know if I go to that person, they're going to ask me this question now. So I need to prepare my answers. I need to think about, did I do it? Did I, what am I going to tell them? So it's not to say that it keeps asking the same question because the questions vary on situational and even personal to you and in that situation. However, it's creating that habit of thinking and questioning yourself. When I say questioning yourself, is questioning the situation and thinking, what could I do better, for example? What do I think is going on? And I think a lot of times we have so much in our head, but we don't, we need the right guidance in terms of organizing our thoughts and really thinking about what we truly want or what's the next step.
Mm. So it's more like Socrates' way of styling.
Uh,
Socrates. It's he's a philosopher
oh, okay.
who's like fond of asking questions.
Yes,
And I think it has to do also with the quality of the questions that you're asking.
exactly. And it always changes depending on the situation, depending on the circumstance, depending on your mood.
And how do you formulate those questions?
It's
I'm sure it's like I know that your app is like more into exact questioning, but when it comes to like how did you formulate it? Like this would be the questions that I will have if it's
So I don't have a memory bank of all questions. However, what I have to do is I have to give her a formula where she understands how to guide the person through the questioning. And I think that's the secret behind the app. It's understanding, how do I communicate with a human? How do I help a human from being confused to having clarity? How do I help someone to being sad to feeling better and then, having a next step forward? So that's really the essence behind it. It's not about the questioning, it's not a question bank, but what it is,
understanding human behavior,
exactly.
human emotional,
Yeah.
yeah,
Whether it's, and it's complicated because, you're thinking, I can hear you thinking about it because you're saying emotional, but then also it could be whether you're just, stuck with a goal, whether it's you may be motivated and you just want to work on a goal. It's again so complicated because it applies to so many different situations. It's I think the easiest way to categorize it would be either you're walking when you walk into the session, you're either walking in choosing your emotion and going from there as to how you feel and that becoming a topic, or you're choosing to have a goal that you want to work on.
Okay.
So it really depends, but I think that's the two way of looking at it and how the conversation.
It's still up to the user and how you
Exactly.
she will take.
Exactly. It's not for, and I think a lot of times we don't really like being told what to do a lot of
Yeah.
times, and we don't take advice all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, you're choosing where you need help and you're coming up with your own answers. Because I think in every situation, whether you speak to someone and get advice, only you know what you're really going through. Only you know your situation. I can give you some work advice, but we work in different organizations and we would have different people that we report to, for example. So that is something that only you know. And you can only commit to what you're comfortable with. And that's where you really challenge your own growth. It's saying that I'm going to commit to doing this.
Okay. And okay, because there are also social workers.
Yes.
Social workers like psychologists,
Yes.
like guidance counselor, and with this app that you're doing,
Yes.
which is like how to put it in that way, like,
How does it connect to that or how does it relate?
and not in that relate, but it's like because they have done the licensing.
Yes.
And
But it actually doesn't touch on that. So coaching is completely separate. It does not touch on, anything that a psychologist would do at all.
so there's a limit on that.
There is a limit. So, for example, it does not diagnose a person. Yeah, that's something that is a no-go. We do not claim it's therapy because it's definitely not. It's completely life coaching. And performance or professional coaching, it's something that will help you through questioning, and you would come up with your own answers. It doesn't diagnose, and it does not. I would say, what else? Hold on, let me think. What was the other one? Uh, it does not give advice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So it would never give advice. It would never diagnose.
Because because the person is the one like taking that questions.
Yes. And there are certain topics that it doesn't really go into. So definitely on a, I would say, moral compass level, there's certain things that I would say that I've kind of, avoided.
Yeah.
So even from a professional standpoint, for example, things that I wouldn't talk about at work, I would try to avoid it, and Sherry wouldn't necessarily entertain that. So there's, you can have small talk with her, but she'll, eventually lead into a coaching session and she'll ask you what you really want help on. So she will never, tell you which mall is the best, or, she will never behave as something that would give you information or tell you what to do. Yeah. She knows that she's strictly an AI coach. And that's her role. That's her job.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm clearly seeing that.
Yeah.
Okay, as you as a person,
Mm-hmm.
have you been coached by someone?
Of course. Yes, definitely.
And
I've been coached by a couple of people.
but you haven't studied any like psychology.
No, I haven't studied psychology. What I've done is I've done a lot of coaching. I've actually introduced coaching in organizations. I've coached coaches, trained them how to coach. I've coached leaders. I have coached as well, life coaching in general as well, done a lot of life coaching. I've mixed in a lot of my NLP techniques with
Can you tell us more about neurolinguistic programming? Yeah.
all right. So neurolinguistic programming covers a lot of different things, a lot of different aspects. There's elements of creating rapport. There's elements of, managing emotion almost. There's different techniques that go by different things. I've done a very intense certification on that where it covered as well
Is it in
timeline
Dubai?
therapy. Yes, I actually did it in Dubai. Yeah. So it covers a lot of different elements. Think of it almost as creating pattern behavior.
Mm-hmm.
There was an example that they shared where, there was a dog, and every time the owner would ring the bell.
Classical conditioning.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So every time the owner would ring the bell, the dog would know that it's time to eat. So every time it heard the bell, automatically would get hungry.
Mm.
So it's almost like teaching yourself through, patterns, behaviors, classic conditioning.
Oh,
Pretty
so
much what you said.
that connects to the app that you're doing.
There's a sense of it. So there's a sense of it. Not in its form, but there's elements of NLP there. And this is what I mentioned is just a part of it. There's a lot more to it. But these were the things that I did cover were elements that are a part of the app. Now, you can use neurolinguistic even for example, somebody getting over addictions or having some sort of behavior that they want to change as well. But
Wow.
so, for example, being able to associate, for example, certain behavior with a pattern that you are, for example, not really too passionate about, I would say. So, linking these two thoughts in a technique is almost teaching the person that, for example, eating fast food
Mm-hmm.
versus something that I don't like and I completely dislike, associating those two thoughts together,
Mm-hmm.
it makes slowly a person.
Because I've read that, but I forgot already the topic. But
Yeah.
of course, it has also something to do with your language, the language that.
Exactly. And that's the one actually that talks about building rapport.
Mm.
It also talks about body language, facial expressions, and things like that. And there's certain words that you could use to be able to connect with somebody and build a stronger rapport. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, 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 it is.
Yeah.
And going back to your app as Sherry,
Yeah.
Sherry,
Sherry.
Coach Sherry.
Yes.
Um, how do you see it? Um, 2 years from now, and what are the like upgrades that you think that you have to do at the moment?
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm actually working definitely on the app itself. We're working also on organizations. That's going to be a huge update where we reach out to organizations and actually look at instilling the coaching behavior within organizations where users,
Organizations, you mean in company?
companies, exactly,
It's like an HR.
like in the entire company. So, for example, every user within the company can actually, every employee can have an account.
That's very smart
Yeah. So
because you got lots of users.
exactly. And I think that's really important as well because a lot of us in organizations have different stress, but regardless, a happy employee does the best work. So it's focusing on, as much as
Like a win-win.
exactly. I think a lot of organizations put so much effort in having planned days out or, different activities or initiatives to engage their people. But sometimes if I have trouble at home, I maybe just need someone to talk to. And that's a little bit questionable at work because, how do I do that? Having a coach that can cover that is pretty good, to have that safe space.
Have you considered as well, like for example, if a person is more into extroverted side and the person um prefer to engage more with
Yes.
co-humans.
Yes.
So do you ever consider that maybe this app is more into introverted people's side?
Not necessarily, because we do have a voice chat, and it is in real time conversation that you can actually coach, get a coaching session with Sherry. So you can actually interact with her in real time. Like I said, it's my voice, so it feels pretty human if you talk to her. She
I've heard it.
exactly. So you can kind of imagine if you're extroverted, which I'm 50-50. Sometimes I do feel like talking, and I just want to vent, or I just want to say something. I personally use it myself.
Mm.
And although it's a little bit awkward to hear my own voice, but I still use it, and I find it useful.
Yeah.
So I use it, and being able to just speak, for me personally, I prefer the voice over chatting. So different people have different, styles, and there's something for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Because okay, okay, what are the things that you see in the app that for those people who are more like traditional when it comes to coaching and stuff, what how do you stand on it?
I think a lot of people who are traditional are I can't change them, I think there's always going to be someone who's traditional.
Yeah.
I've worked in a lot of organizations, and as much as there were changes, we always had somebody who didn't want the change.
And
There was always someone who said, I always did it this way, and this is the way I want to continue to do it. So there's always going to be, I
and
love
it's there.
exactly. I love this phase where you can't make everyone happy. You're not Nutella, So I always think about that. I'm not Nutella. I'm not going to make everyone happy,
Yeah.
but I know who is going to, benefit from the app. And that's the people I need to personally reach out to. Those are the people that I need to market towards.
Sure.
So I think every product has a customer base, and it's important to understand your audience, what they want, and be able to give them something that they would be really excited about, and something that really benefit them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as an entrepreneur, so what are the because I love asking this every episodes that I
Yeah.
have. Um, what do you how do you see success? And your app is really amazing
Thank you.
because I've also like heard that in sooner or later
Yes.
there will be people who's marrying their AI.
Oh, yeah.
This is
I've seen that actually on the news.
so something like, oh, if someone is already doing it,
Yeah.
are we going to that
Yeah.
level already?
Sherry's not marrying anyway. My definition of success is growth. So every every so often that changes for me. If I was to think back a year from now, this would have been what I would define as success. Right now, where I stand, my next step is where success lies. So I'm always having my little success milestones.
Mm-hmm.
To me, success is a never ending journey,
True.
because you're never, at least I am never going to just sit still and think, okay, I'm done. I'm always going to want to work on something bigger, something better,
Yeah.
and push myself beyond the boundaries.
Like maximizing our human potential.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm.
So I think that's how I would answer it, really.
But the thing is, like, your app is into a public thing, you know? How do you manage your privacy
Yes.
into like putting yourself into the public?
Yeah. So today,
Yeah.
having this podcast, I'm the founder of Elevate, whereas Sherry represents herself as Coach Sherry. She's a separate character.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely an extension of me, but Sherry continues to play her role as Coach Sherry.
Mm.
So she has her own Instagram. She has her own identity that is maybe an extension of mine, but she is still AI, and I don't claim to be her, nor does she claim to be me. So we're two different entities, I would say.
I like when you said last time, like, AI makes our lives easier.
Yeah. I think definitely it depends on how you use it, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's there to be able to help people, you know, automate things, work smartly where you can avoid administrative tasks, yeah, and, focus on what is important. I think the ideal thing, in my humble opinion, would be not to let AI lead you, but
Yeah.
for you to lead the AI.
Yeah.
So using it to, do the little work that would be pretty annoying and time wasting, so that you can focus on more important things.
Because my question is like,
Mhm.
you're doing an app more into emotional intelligence
In coaching.
in coaching, yes. Have you seen anyone in Dubai who's also doing that?
No,
No.
not an AI. Not an AI. There are people who do it, but before I claim to say that, I did a lot of extensive research,
Hmm.
and there are people who claim to. But if you do actually go through the coaching, a lot of people, use the word coaching very loosely. But there's specific structure to coaching. And that's what I'm using. I'm using the professional structure of coaching. When you use Sherry, it's almost like visiting a professional coach.
So
And
it's also licensed.
it is. So
Mm.
it's no, it's not licensed, but it's something that came from my knowledge, experience, and skills as somebody that's coached for so long.
Hmm.
So that's what I would say about it. So there are apps that claim to be companions, AI coaches. I've looked through them, but not in the sense of professional coaching as they would teach it to you. When we say coaching, I had discussions, and when I shared this with some of my you know, pro- coaches, in my network, or professionals that actually coach. So when I say coach, I mean the actual professional coach, which is why we call her a wellness coach, focusing on professional as well as life coaching. But in a sense of structural coaching in terms of professional, career performance, whether it's, entrepreneurial, whether it's whatever you want to call it, really, including life and,
No, I
so
get it because
it's
your main target customers are into organization.
exactly.
So it focuses more into the company,
Yeah. It
company
could
thing.
it could actually be someone in an organization. It could be even a mother who's like, in the house and, taking care of her children, stressed,
Or
or,
time management.
yeah. It could be pretty much for anybody, really.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, wow, you're really exciting. Yeah.
So maybe 2 years from now, I'll see you like, oh,
Definitely. Oh, definitely. And I think about that sometimes, My husband tells me, like, people might stop you in the street and say, Coach Sherry, who knows, right? Who knows?
And your face as well becomes like more into an AI.
Yeah, yeah, I guess you can call her my sister or my other half.
Your name is Sharifa and then
Yeah,
Sherry.
Sherry is short. Yeah, it's a nickname.
Mm-mm,
So
yeah.
yeah.
What are your say to those people who are like giving negative feedback to you?
Honestly, I haven't gotten any negative feedback yet.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's people who may, not feel very strongly about using, AI for coaching, for example, because they're more traditional in the sense, I mean, those people don't even use ChatGPT, for example. They believe in the old traditional, ways, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think, like I said earlier, you can please everybody, and not everything is for everybody. You can't sell, I mean, the best salesperson we say can sell to everybody, but the product won't apply to every single person, really. So I think for me, it's not. I never taken feedback as a negative thing, but I think there's difference in opinion. There's definitely some people who tell me they prefer this, and then other people tell me they prefer that. Some people even tell me to change certain things
Mhm.
that could ideally change the way she coaches, which would then steer off into a direction where she wouldn't be coaching anymore. So there's feedback that I do take into consideration. And actually, all of this, the success that we've gotten so far, at least with the little success that we have, in the milestone that we've hit right now, we've actually received a lot of this feedback. We've actually also brainstormed. So I definitely feel like it's definitely been a collaborative effort, but not.
Do you have a team? while doing.
So I do have a team. I have a very small team. So I've got two contracted developers, and then my husband, who is lead developer, and then myself, the brains behind everything. So I take on a lot of different roles within the company itself. And yeah, that's pretty much it for now. But yeah, we're growing slowly. I mean, and
Yeah,
everything takes time.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And you being a serial entrepreneur for 15 years.
So I haven't been an entrepreneur for 15 years. I've worked for 15 years. So me being a serial entrepreneur, I actually I helped my husband launch a company that we both run together.
Aside from this one.
Yes. So
Mhm.
it's called Mindfuse. And that actually started because I wanted him to actually, he used to work freelance for a different organization. And I kind of, in a way, told him we can work for ourselves.
Wow.
So
You're just smart.
yes, I'm the brains behind it. So, he's got great technical brains, and I've just got the business,
Yeah.
behind
Business and all the
growth, like, business growth. I've used to growing businesses as well. I've had people when I used to do freelancing that I've kind of given them advice on how to grow their business.
yeah.
And I've always been passionate. I've always helped other people grow, but I've never actually done it myself until we actually launched our, Mindfuse, which was basically the platform that started everything. That was the company where, we offer services to be able to build apps, build softwares and build websites. So this is where everything started. Upon that journey and me kind of picking up and learning different things, that's where my product basically got created from. So it's definitely a product of Mindfuse, but it definitely has its own brand
Yeah.
as Elevate.
Yeah. It's very it's a very smart
Yeah.
thing.
And
to do.
sometimes I think it goes to show that sometimes when you believe in other people and you kind of, help them, in a way it helps you. And I think everything comes back full circle. My intention was never to actually build my own, company at the time or my own, app or anything like that. But through that journey, he actually inspired me and pushed me to actually go for it and do something. And I had this idea and I just thought it was a little idea. And I said, no, no, it's okay. No, we don't need to do
But you
this.
still had this idea. So
But I still had the idea lingering in my head. And he
so
said,
what made you what made you say that okay, this is the time that I have to do this?
the push.
The push, yeah.
And that's what I say. A lot of people have this idea, but they just don't do it. And
Or I think you have the resources that is already like
yeah,
given to you and
yeah,
it's just like needed to be executed and be pushed a little bit.
you're right.
And
And sometimes we may not have the resources, but we can find out how to get the resources. Because there's always somebody who knows something. There's always
yeah,
somebody we can learn from or ask or grow. There's always something.
there's always something if you really wanted to.
Exactly. If you want it, you can make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about Elevate. Like you have options on how you do it,
Yeah.
but it's still up to you if you'd have to take an action.
Exactly. As much as, I hear the word, oh, you're breaking the barrier. It's something different. It's really challenging because you can say on one side, it's great that I'm kind of, you know, trying to change things and do something a little bit different, but it's also risky because there's, the part where people are used to AI and, they're enjoying getting at
Yeah.
this information. And then what I'm trying to say is, don't let it spoon feed you when it comes to wellness. Use something that will allow you to build that self trust eventually.
Okay, so I just pop up in this the moment when you say that because you can only ask questions when you're aware of the things that you have.
Not necessarily, not as a coach. There's coaches that coach some of the best entrepreneurs in the world. I've coached people that were very senior in very technical roles. The best coach is someone that doesn't actually know what you do because they will always people that know what you do have a certain expectation of how you should do it or what answer you should give. You ever had a person that asked you a question, but they're expecting you to answer the way they want you to? So it also feels like a trap. It's like,
Yeah.
do you want me to say this? But it's like, I'm not thinking it, but do you want me to say it? And I think that goes against the concept of coaching because then you're not empowering. You're playing a guessing game. So the best coaches are coaches that come up with strong questions that could guide you into clarity, into direction.
I totally get what you're saying, but if I am the user of the app and I'm not aware that I have this thing, like how can I even tell you if I am myself is
So that's the beauty of Sherry. So she actually digs really deep to be able to understand what's going on. So she will.
not just about emotional, right?
It's not just about emotional because sometimes it's funny because sometimes our perception isn't reality. And sometimes we aren't aware of what the actual situation is.
True.
And sometimes, just speaking to her and kind of saying, you know what, I feel this, I don't know why. She'll try to ask you different questions to be able to dig deeper into what actually caused this. Did something happen today, for example? What triggered this feeling, for example? Well, someone said this and then I just felt this way, but I don't know why I feel this way. Okay, have you ever felt this way in the past, for example? Or, these are some options. Any of
Because
this
it's counterproductive.
Exactly. So it really digs deep into actually you even understanding yourself a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more into introspection as well.
Exactly.
And we are learning from AI, because if this thing eh, as already exists, then we can also do that also to ourselves. But
Exactly.
it makes the app like easier
Exactly.
and like a guide.
Yes. A guide, definitely.
Yeah. So and for you, because your app is more into the questions, how important it is to ask the right question.
Very important. That is everything it is all about. Wow. Because the question definitely leads into where the conversation is headed. The ultimate thing and the most important thing in this app is the questioning pattern. It's where do I go from here? How do I get someone from A to B? So it's creating clarity, that process of creating clarity, getting from, awareness to action is very challenging, different, situational, person to person as well. And that's exactly the challenge that I face training Sherry every single day.
Because that question would your task is to lead that question to an action.
Exactly. Because a lot of times at the end of the coaching session, whether it's an action that needs to take place outside of the coaching, by that I mean something that you would like to commit to as an action, that ends up being a goal. And that's something that you can track in the goals. So imagine it starts with a conversation and ends with a goal
Yes.
or ends with an action.
Yes. Definitely. And now I'm getting the app that what you're building for. And it's something that I'm
Great.
excited to like see it in the app
Yeah.
store soon.
Thank you. She'll very soon.
Okay. To close this episode, what is your advice to those people who are wanting growth?
Wanting growth?
Yeah. Or like into self-discovery.
Yeah. I think self-discovery is different. There's no one answer fits all, but it's trying to understand what you would like to grow on. I think it's important to challenge yourself because self-growth comes from being uncomfortable. You can't stay comfortable and grow. For being able to grow, you need to do something that you haven't done before to reach a destination you haven't been before. So that's my biggest advice is try something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable. And I think a lot of it comes with, again, asking whether it's yourself, whether it's having a coach that asks you the right question, but really doing the thinking behind it.
Deep thinking.
Exactly. Having even, rather have an accountability in terms of what you would like to grow And that in itself, once you start to do that, you'll develop self-trust. And that's a very, very, very important thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because once you know where you want to start, and then you just have to figure out how, then that's how self-trust is.
And I
It's
think
built.
it starts with little things.
Yeah.
That's why I say my success is always changing, because my success is based on little milestones that I sell. So little milestones that I set. So if you have a goal, don't necessarily, demotivate yourself and think, well, I'm never going to get there. It's going to take forever. Have little milestones that you can celebrate
Self-compassion.
along the way. Exactly.
Yeah. You have this.
It's all about the journey and getting out there.
It's not just always the result, but
Exactly.
who you become during the process.
I agree, which is why I think being authentic and really, being very intentional about your growth and about what you do in life is very important.
Because if you are intentional in the things that you're doing, there will always be people that will guide you, like Shari.
Yeah.
Thank you for this episode,
Thank you.
Sherry Coach, and we're looking forward for it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.